Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that is shaking the foundations of European security. Reports have surfaced that Russia has secret military drones have been spotted flying dangerously close to NATO bases in the Baltic region, triggering alarm bells in Washington, Brussels, and across Europe. The Baltic Sea, already a hotspot for military maneuvers, is once again at the center of a storm. A storm that could reshape the balance of power between Russia and NATO. In this video, we will dive deep into what these drone sightings mean, how NATO is responding, and why the Baltic Sea has suddenly become a potential flashpoint for a larger confrontation. Stay tuned, because this is more than just about drones. It's about geopolitics, power, and the future of European security. Over the past few weeks, multiple NATO intelligence sources have confirmed unidentified drones operating near key NATO military installations in the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. While NATO has not officially named Russia, military analysts believe the evidence strongly suggests Russian origin. Why? Because these drones bear the hallmarks of Russia's new generation of stealth surveillance and electronic warfare drones, capable of flying undetected for hours, gathering intelligence, and even jamming communications. According to insiders, the drones were detected near air bases, hosting US and NATO fighter jets, as well as near critical radar systems designed to monitor Russian movements in Kaliningrad and Moscow, its heavily militarized enclave on the Baltic Sea. Now, let's talk about Russia's drones. Most people are familiar with Russian tanks, fighter jets, and nuclear missiles. But what many don't realize is that Moscow has invested heavily in unmanned aerial systems over the last decade. From small reconnaissance drones like the Orlan 10, to larger combat models like the Orion and experimental stealth UAVs. Russia's drone program is vast and evolving, but intelligence experts say these recent sightings are not regular drones. They are believed to be part of a secretive project, drones capable of penetrating NATO airspace while avoiding radar detection. Some reports suggest Russia may be testing its Okhotnik B stealth drone, nicknamed Hunter B, near NATO territory. This massive drone, almost the size of a fighter jet, can carry weapons, can duke survey, and even act as a decoy in electronic warfare. The next question is why here? Why the Baltic Sea? The answer lies in geopolitics. The Baltic region is one of NATO's most vulnerable. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are small countries bordering Russia, and they rely heavily on NATO for protection. In fact, NATO maintains rotating forces and bases in these countries precisely to deter any Russian aggression. On the other side, Russia's Kaliningrad enclave is one of the most militarized regions in Europe. It hosts nuclear-capable missiles, advanced air defense systems like the S-400, and thousands of troops. So the Baltic Sea is like a chessboard. Every move, every deployment, every flight is watched carefully. And when Russia sends secret drones near NATO bases, it's not just about intelligence gathering. It's about sending a message of intimidation. According to military reports, NATO has scrambled fighter jets multiple times in the last month to intercept these drones. But here's the problem. Many of them disappeared before NATO jets could lock on. This raises a frightening question. Has Russia developed drones that can outmaneuver NATO defenses? One NATO officer, speaking anonymously, said if these drones can operate undetected near our bases, then our entire defensive system is at risk. This is no small issue. NATO relies on early warning and radar coverage to prepare for any Russian move. If drones can slip through undetected, it undermines NATO's ability to respond. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. The Baltic Sea has been tense for years, but recently, the tensions have risen dramatically. Russia has increased military exercises in the region. NATO has reinforced its eastern flank with troops and equipment. The war in Ukraine has only deepened mistrust and confrontation. So when Russian drones start buzzing near NATO bases, the risk of miscalculation skyrockets. Imagine a scenario where NATO shoots down a Russian drone, or worse, mistakes it for an armed UAV, and retaliates. Such an incident could trigger a dangerous spiral of escalation. There's also another dimension: electronic warfare. Some analysts believe these Russian drones are not only spying, but also testing NATO's electronic defenses. By flying near NATO bases, they can probe radar systems, identify weak spots, and even attempt to jam communications. This is classic Russian doctrine, using hybrid warfare tactics to weaken the enemy without firing a single shot. If Russia can blind NATO's radar or disrupt command systems in the Baltic, it could give Moscow a decisive advantage in any future confrontation. Beyond the military aspect, there's also the political signaling. By sending drones near NATO bases, Russia is sending a message not just to the Baltic states, but to all of Europe and the United States. We are watching you. We can reach you, and we are not afraid. This comes at a time when NATO is debating further troop deployments in Eastern Europe and increasing support for Ukraine. The drone flights may be Russia's way of warning NATO to back off. This is not the first time drones have caused alarm in Europe. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union used reconnaissance flights to gather intelligence. But 10 spy planes were manned, like the famous U-2 incident in 1960, when an American plane was shot down over Soviet territory. Today, drones have replaced those missions, but the principle is the same: intelligence, intimidation, and the risk of confrontation. The only difference is that drones remove the human pilot, making it easier for nations to take risks. European leaders are deeply concerned. Lithuania has already called for an emergency NATO meeting to discuss the drone threat. Estonia has demanded stronger air defenses, while Latvia has urged NATO to send more fighter jets to patrol the skies. In Brussels, NATO officials are walking a fine line. They don't want to escalate tensions further, but they also cannot ignore the threat. Some reports suggest NATO may deploy advanced AWACS surveillance planes and new drone detection systems to the region. Washington is also watching closely. The United States has thousands of troops stationed in Europe, and many are in the Baltic region. If Russia's drones threaten US bases or personnel, the response could be swift and severe. The Pentagon has already warned that it will defend NATO airspace against any and all intrusions. But here is the dilemma: how do you prove who owns a drone if it has no markings? No transponder and is designed to vanish without a trace. Of course, Russia denies everything. Moscow has officially stated that it is not conducting drone operations near NATO bases, and that any such claims are Western propaganda. But analysts say this denial is part of the strategy. By keeping operations covert and deniable, Russia can continue to test NATO without crossing the line into open confrontation. So where does this all lead? There are three possible scenarios. First, the status quo. Russia continues its drone flights. NATO continues to scramble jets, and both sides avoid direct clashes. Second, escalation. A drone is shot down, leading to accusations and potential retaliation. Third, deterrence. NATO strengthens its defenses, making it harder for Russia to operate, forcing Moscow to reconsider its tactics. Which scenario plays out depends on the decisions made in Moscow, Brussels, and Washington in the coming weeks. The sighting of Russia's secret drones near NATO bases is not just a minor incident. It is a signal that the struggle for dominance in the Baltic Sea is entering a new and dangerous phase. The Baltic region may seem far away to many people, but make no mistake, what happens here affects the entire world. The balance of power between NATO and Russia, the security of Europe, and even the stability of global order may hinge on these silent, shadowy drones flying in the skies above the Baltic Sea. So stay tuned, because this story is far from over.